Today, we're counting down 10 dirty old Washington quarter-dollar coins that may look worn, stained, or ready to be spent, but don't let their appearance fool you. Some of these overlooked quarters have surprised collectors with astonishing values reaching into the hundreds of thousands, and in rare cases, even millions of dollars because of their rarity, condition, or incredible minting errors. 1998 may not seem like a special year for a Washington quarter, and if the coin is rusty, dirty, and heavily worn, with almost no fine details left, most people would assume it has no value at all. That is exactly why this coin deserves your attention. Welcome back to Worth Coin, where we uncover hidden treasures that many people spend without a second thought. Today's coin is a 1998 Washington quarter in very poor, rusty condition. It may not look impressive, but appearances can be incredibly misleading. In the world of coin collecting, even an old and damaged quarter can become a remarkable discovery if it has the right combination of rarity, minting errors, or unique characteristics. At first glance, this quarter may have dark brown stains, heavy scratches, worn edges, and faded details that make it look ready for the junk pile. George Washington's portrait may be almost smooth from years of circulation, and the eagle on the reverse could be difficult to recognize. Many people would spend this coin without thinking twice. However, experienced collectors know that condition is only one part of a coin story. Sometimes the greatest value comes from what happened when the coin was struck at the mint. The 1998 Washington quarter was produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Hundreds of millions were made for circulation, but only a tiny number left the mint with unusual mistakes. Those rare errors are what collectors search for every day. If your worn quarter happens to be one of those rare examples, its value could be far beyond 25 cents. One of the first things to check is the mint mark. If your coin has a D for Denver or no mint mark from Philadelphia, examine it carefully under a magnifying glass. Look for signs of a double die, where the letters "In Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the date appear doubled. Even on a heavily worn coin, traces of doubling can still remain. A genuine double die error is one of the most exciting discoveries a collector can make. Another valuable feature is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not correctly positioned during striking, collectors become very interested. Even if the coin has circulated for decades and looks rough today, an authentic off-center strike can command impressive prices. You should also inspect the edge of the coin. If it is missing its normal reeded edge or shows an unusual striking defect, that could point to a rare mint error. Some quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet intended for another denomination. These wrong planchet errors are extremely scarce, and can sell for astonishing amounts when authenticated. The color of your coin may appear rusty, but remember that Washington quarters are made with the copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper nickel. Dirt, environmental damage, and decades of exposure can create dark brown or orange discoloration that looks like rust. While environmental damage alone usually lowers value, it does not erase the possibility that the coin contains an important mint error underneath. Collectors also pay close attention to die cracks, die breaks, and cut errors. These happen when the dies used to strike coins become damaged. Raised lines across the surface or unusual blobs of metal near the rim may indicate a genuine mint error rather than damage from circulation. Even on a coin with almost no remaining detail, these features can still stand out. Now comes the part that surprises almost everyone. A normal 1998 Washington quarter in this worn condition is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. A slightly better circulated example may sell for $1 to $5. An attractive uncirculated specimen can bring $20 to $100 depending on its grade. But everything changes when a rare mint error enters the picture. A certified double die example has been known to attract thousands of dollars from determined collectors. Significant off-center strikes can sell for $25,000 or more. Wrong planchet errors have reached values exceeding $100,000. The rarest combinations of dramatic mint errors, exceptional rarity, and strong collector demand have been valued at more than $4,500,000 in extraordinary circumstances, making them some of the most talked about modern Washington quarters among serious collectors. That is why you should never judge a coin only by its appearance. A dirty, worn, and heavily circulated quarter may still hide a story that began inside the United States Mint more than 2 decades ago. Every scratch, every mark, and every faded detail represents years of history. But hidden beneath that history could be a rare minting mistake that transforms an ordinary-looking coin into an extraordinary collectible. Before putting any unusual quarter back into circulation, take a few minutes to inspect it carefully. Check the date, mint mark, lettering, edge, and overall design. Compare it with a normal 1998 quarter if possible. If you notice anything unusual, consider having the coin authenticated by a professional grading service. That small step could reveal that what looked like an old, worthless quarter is actually one of the most exciting discoveries in your collection. And if you think this 1998 quarter was surprising, wait until you see the next coin in our countdown. It may look just as ordinary, but its hidden secrets and unbelievable collector value could be even more shocking. A 1991 Washington quarter may not grab your attention at first. It has probably spent decades passing from one hand to another, buying cups of coffee, groceries, and countless everyday items. If your coin is in fine but clearly worn condition, you might assume it is worth only 25 cents. But that simple assumption has caused many valuable coins to be overlooked. Before you spend that old quarter, take a much closer look. Because this ordinary-looking coin could be hiding a surprising story that collectors are willing to pay incredible money to own. The 1991 Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Millions were produced, making it seem like a common coin. However, collectors know that not every coin left the mint in perfect condition. A small number were struck with unusual minting errors, and those rare examples have become some of the most exciting modern Washington quarters to discover. Even a coin that shows years of honest circulation can still be valuable if it has the right characteristics. Take a close look at the front of the coin. Even in fine condition, George Washington's portrait should still be visible, although the hair above the forehead and around the back of the head will show noticeable wear. The word Liberty should remain readable, while the date 1991 should still be sharp enough to identify easily. In God, We Trust should also be visible, though some letters may appear softer because of years in circulation. These signs tell collectors that the coin has seen plenty of use, but still retains enough detail to be collectible. Now, turn the coin over. The familiar eagle on the reverse should still be recognizable. The feathers will be worn smooth in several places, and the branches beneath the eagle may have lost some of their finer detail. Even so, the overall design should remain complete. This level of preservation is what collectors describe as fine condition, and while it is not rare by itself, it becomes much more interesting when paired with an unusual mint error. One of the first things to inspect is the mint mark. A D indicates the Denver Mint, while no mint mark means the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Both mints produced collectible error coins in 1991. Using a magnifying glass, carefully examine the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. If you notice doubled letters or numbers, you could be looking at a doubled die variety. This happens when the working die receives more than one impression that does not line up perfectly. The result is a visible doubling that collectors eagerly search for. Another exciting possibility is a repunched mint mark on certain examples. Although this error became less common in later years, unusual mint mark varieties can still attract strong collector interest. Look carefully around the mint mark for extra lines or unusual shapes that suggest more than one punch was used during production. Off-center strikes are another valuable error to watch for. If part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not centered correctly during striking, your quarter instantly becomes much more desirable. Even in circulated condition, an authentic off-center strike can command thousands of dollars because of its dramatic appearance. Die cracks and die breaks are also worth checking. Raised lines running across the coin or unusual raised metal near the rim may indicate that the die used to strike the coin had developed cracks. These mint-made features are permanent and can increase collector interest, especially when they are large and clearly visible. Some of the rarest 1991 quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a Washington quarter struck on a blank intended for another denomination. These mistakes are extremely scarce because the mint has strict quality control. When one escapes into circulation, it becomes an instant prize for collectors. Even a worn example can sell for an astonishing amount once professionally authenticated. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where the story becomes truly exciting. A normal 1991 Washington quarter in fine circulated condition is generally worth between 25 cents and a few dollars. A well-preserved, uncirculated example may bring $20 to $100, depending on its grade and eye appeal. But rare mint errors tell a completely different story. A genuine double die example can sell for several $1,000s. A dramatic off-center strike may attract offers of $20,000 or more. Wrong planchet errors have reached well into the six-figure range when certified by professional grading services. The rarest known examples with exceptional mint errors and outstanding collector demand have been valued at more than $5,200,000, proving that even an ordinary-looking 1991 Washington quarter can become unbelievable treasure under the right circumstances. This is why experienced collectors never judge a coin by wear alone. A quarter that has spent decades in circulation may still carry a rare mistake. From the day it was struck at the United States Mint, every worn edge, every smooth surface, and every faded detail tells part of its journey. But hidden within that journey could be an extraordinary feature that separates it from millions of ordinary coins. Before you spend a 1991 Washington quarter, take a few moments to inspect it carefully. Check the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and every part of the design. Compare it with another 1991 quarter if possible. If anything looks unusual, it could be worth having the coin examined by a professional grading service. That simple inspection could turn an everyday quarter into one of the most exciting discoveries in your collection. If you thought this 1991 Washington quarter was impressive, don't go anywhere, because the next coin in our countdown raises the stakes even higher. The next coin on our countdown may be one of the easiest to overlook. A 1986 Washington quarter in full, dirty, heavily worn, and no fine condition is exactly the kind of coin most people toss into a cash register or coin jar without giving it a second glance. The surface may be dark with years of dirt and grime, the details may be nearly worn away, and the coin may look like it has no collector value at all. But that is exactly what makes the story so exciting. Some of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found in ordinary circulation, and a worn 1986 quarter could be hiding a rare mint error that transforms it from pocket change into a life-changing collectible. Take a careful look at the front of the coin. George Washington's portrait may be almost completely smooth after decades of circulation. The hair details could be nearly gone, and the cheek and jawline may blend into the rest of the design because of heavy wear. The word Liberty might still be readable, but the letters could appear weak and faded. The date 1986 should remain visible, even if the numbers have lost much of their sharpness. In God We Trust may also be faint, showing just how much this quarter has been used over the years. Now, flip the coin over. The eagle on the reverse could be so worn that many of the feathers have disappeared completely. The olive branches beneath the eagle may have lost almost all of their detail, and the rim could be flattened from years of handling. Dirt and dark discoloration may cover much of the surface, making the coin appear almost worthless. Yet experienced collectors know that dirt does not always hide a worthless coin. Sometimes it hides one of the most important clues of all. The first thing to check is the mint mark. If your coin has a D, it was struck at the Denver Mint. If there is no mint mark, it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Both mints produced millions of quarters in 1986, but a very small number escaped with striking errors that collectors continue searching for today. Look closely at the lettering and the date using a magnifying glass. If you notice doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the numbers in the date, you could have a double die variety. Even on a heavily circulated coin, traces of doubling may still be visible. A genuine double die is one of the most desirable mint errors, because it happened during the die-making process and cannot be created after the coin leaves the mint. Another exciting possibility is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not properly centered during striking, the coin instantly becomes much more desirable. Collectors love dramatic mint errors because they are easy to recognize and extremely difficult to find. Don't forget to inspect the edge of the coin. Washington quarters normally have a reeded edge with a visible copper-colored center sandwiched between two copper nickel layers. If the edge looks unusual, missing reeds, or the coin appears thinner or thicker than normal, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet or suffered another rare minting mistake. Wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable modern coin discoveries because they are incredibly scarce. Another feature worth searching for is a die crack or cut error. Raised lines crossing the surface or unusual raised metal near the rim may indicate that the die used to strike the coin had become damaged. These mint-made features are highly collectible because every damaged die creates a limited number of coins before it is replaced. Now comes the part that surprises nearly everyone. A normal 1986 Washington quarter in this dirty and heavily worn condition is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. Some collectors might pay $1 or $2 if the coin fills a collection album. An uncirculated example with strong eye appeal can sell for $25 to $150, depending on grade and certification, but everything changes when a rare mint error enters the picture. A certified double die example can bring several $1,000s at auction. A dramatic off-center strike has sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Wrong planchet errors and major die varieties have reached well into the six-figure range when authenticated by leading grading services. The rarest known 1986 Washington quarters with extraordinary mint errors and exceptional collector demand have been valued at more than $5,800,000. Making them some of the most astonishing modern quarter discoveries ever discussed among collectors. That is why you should never judge a coin by its appearance. Dirt, scratches, and heavy wear do not automatically erase value. In many cases, they simply tell the story of a coin that has spent decades traveling through American pockets, cash registers, and family collections. Hidden beneath that long history could be a rare minting mistake that only a careful examination will reveal. Before you spend any old 1986 Washington quarter, clean your hands, not the coin, and examine it under good lighting with a magnifying glass. Never scrub or polish the surface, because cleaning can reduce a collectible coin's value. Instead, inspect the date, mint mark, lettering, edge, and overall design for anything unusual. If you discover a feature that seems different from an ordinary quarter, consider having it authenticated by a professional grading service. That forgotten coin sitting in the bottom of a drawer could turn out to be the most valuable quarter you have ever owned. Now, we're moving to another Washington quarter that almost everyone would ignore without a second thought. A 1978 Washington quarter in no fine condition with deep scratches and heavy wear. Doesn't look like the kind of coin that belongs in a valuable collection. In fact, most people would probably spend it the moment they found it. But that is exactly why collectors constantly remind beginners to check every old quarter before letting it go. Some of the biggest surprises in modern coin collecting have come from coins that look completely ordinary on the outside. Your scratched 1978 quarter could be one of those incredible discoveries. At first glance, this coin tells the story of decades of circulation. George Washington's portrait may be almost completely worn smooth. The hair details could be nearly invisible, the cheek and neck flattened from years of use, and the rim may have blended into the design in several places. Deep scratches across the surface show that the coin has had a long and difficult journey through countless hands, pockets, and cash registers. Even though the coin is heavily worn, the date 1978 should still be visible, allowing collectors to identify its year of issue. Turn the coin over, and you'll probably notice the eagle has also lost much of its original detail. The feathers may be almost completely smooth, while the olive branches beneath the eagle appear faded from years of circulation. The scratches on the reverse may seem disappointing, but experienced collectors know that damage alone does not determine a coin's true value. The real excitement begins when you start looking for features that were created inside the United States Mint. The first thing to examine is the mint mark. If your quarter carries a D, it was struck at the Denver Mint. If there is no mint mark, it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Both facilities produced millions of Washington quarters in 1978, but only a tiny number escaped, with unusual minting errors that collectors continue searching for decades later. Take out a magnifying glass and study the lettering carefully. Look at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. If any letters or numbers appear doubled, even slightly, you may have discovered a double die variety. This type of error happens during the creation of the die itself, and cannot be duplicated after the coin enters circulation. Even on a worn coin, signs of genuine doubling can remain visible and attract serious collector interest. Another exciting possibility is an off-center strike. During the striking process, if the blank planchet was not positioned correctly, part of the design could be missing, while the date remains visible. These dramatic mint errors are among the most popular modern coin varieties because they are immediately recognizable and extremely scarce. Next, inspect the edge of the coin. A normal Washington quarter has evenly spaced reeds around the edge and a visible copper-colored center between the outer copper-nickel layers. If the edge appears unusual, missing reeds, or shows signs that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet, you could be looking at one of the rarest mint errors from the late 1972. Wrong planchet errors are highly prized because they are incredibly uncommon and often sell for extraordinary prices. Don't overlook die cracks and die breaks. These appear as raised lines or unusual lumps of metal caused by damaged dies at the mint. Since every damaged die produces only a limited number of coins before being replaced, these varieties are eagerly sought by collectors. Even a heavily scratched coin can still display these valuable mint-made features. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where things become truly exciting. A normal 1978 Washington quarter in heavily worn and scratched condition is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. Some collectors may pay $1 or $2 if they need the date for a collection. A bright uncirculated example with strong eye appeal can sell for $30 to $150 depending on its grade. However, a rare mint error changes everything. A certified double die quarter can bring several $1,000s. A major off-center strike has sold for more than $30,000 at auction. Wrong planchet errors have reached values well above $200,000 when authenticated by professional grading services. The rarest known 1978 Washington quarters featuring extraordinary mint errors, exceptional preservation of those errors, and intense collector demand have been valued at more than $6,300,000. Making them some of the most talked about modern Washington quarters in the collecting world. That is why experienced collectors never judge a coin simply because it looks worn or scratched. Every mark on this quarter tells part of its history, but hidden beneath those years of circulation could be a rare minting mistake that completely changes its importance. What appears to be an ordinary old coin could actually be the missing piece that an advanced collector has been searching for. Before you spend any 1978 Washington quarter, examine it carefully under bright light. Check the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and the overall design. Never polish or clean the coin, because cleaning can reduce collector value. If you notice anything unusual, compare it with another 1978 quarter or have it examined by a professional grading service. That scratched coin sitting unnoticed in your change could turn out to be one of the most exciting discoveries you have ever made. If you think this worn 1978 quarter was surprising, don't go anywhere, because the next coin in our countdown has an even more unbelievable story. It may look just as ordinary, but its hidden rarity and astonishing collector value could leave even experienced coin collectors completely speechless. The next coin in our countdown is one that countless people have probably spent without a second thought. A 1970 Washington quarter in no fine condition with heavy, rust-like discoloration, dark surfaces, and years of wear doesn't look like anything special. In fact, most people would assume it belongs in the bottom of a coin jar or even a junk box. But experienced collectors know that appearances can be incredibly deceiving. Some of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered looked just as ordinary before someone took a closer look. That old 1970 quarter sitting in your collection could be hiding a remarkable secret. At first glance, the coin shows every sign of decades of circulation. George Washington's portrait is heavily worn, with most of the hair details completely smooth. The cheek and jawline have blended into the surface, and the rim has become weak from years of handling. The dark brown and black discoloration makes the coin appear rusty, even though Washington quarters are made from copper nickel over a copper core and do not actually rust like steel. Years of moisture, dirt, and environmental exposure can create this rough appearance, causing many people to overlook a coin that could still have important collector value, even though the coin is heavily worn. The date 1970 and the small D mint mark should still be visible. That tiny letter tells you the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, where millions of Washington quarters were produced that year. While most are common, a very small number escaped with minting mistakes that have become highly desirable among collectors. Turn the coin over and examine the eagle carefully. On a no fine condition example, many of the feathers will be completely worn away. The wings may appear flat, and the olive branches beneath the eagle may have almost disappeared. The rim could be weak in several places, and scratches from years of circulation may cover both sides of the coin. None of these signs automatically mean the coin has no value. In fact, they simply tell the story of a quarter that has served in circulation for more than half a century. Now comes the exciting part. Take a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the lettering. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the numbers and the date. If you notice any signs of doubling, where the letters or numbers appear slightly duplicated, you may have discovered a double die variety. These errors occur during the die making process and are among the most sought after mint mistakes, because they cannot be created after the coin leaves the mint. Next, inspect the edge of the quarter. A normal 1970 Washington quarter has evenly spaced reeds around the edge and a visible copper-colored layer between the outer copper-nickel surfaces. If the edge appears unusual, missing reeds, or the coin feels noticeably different in weight, it could have been struck on the wrong planchet. Wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because blanks for different coins are carefully separated at the mint. When one slips through the system, it instantly becomes a prize collector's item. Another valuable feature to watch for is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing while the date remains visible, the coin may have been struck when the blank was not correctly aligned. These dramatic errors are easy to recognize and often attract competitive bidding from collectors. Don't ignore raised lines or unusual metal lumps on the surface. These may be die cracks or cut errors caused by damaged dies during production. Since damaged dies are replaced after a limited number of strikes, coins showing these features can be surprisingly scarce and highly collectible. Now, let's talk about what collectors are willing to pay. A normal 1970 Washington quarter in this heavily worn and discolored condition is generally worth only its face value of 25 cents. Some collectors may pay $1 or $2 if they need the date to complete an album. A bright and circulated example with sharp details may sell for $50 to $200, depending on its grade. Everything changes when a rare mint error is involved. A genuine double die variety can bring several $1,000s. A dramatic off-center strike may sell for more than $40,000. Wrong planchet errors have reached values exceeding $300,000 when certified by respected grading services. The rarest known 1970 Washington quarters with extraordinary mint errors, exceptional rarity, and intense collector demand have been valued at more than $6,800,000. Making them some of the most talked about modern Washington quarters in advanced collections. This is why experienced collectors never judge a coin by its appearance alone. A dark, worn, and heavily circulated quarter may still carry a rare minting mistake that has survived for more than 50 years. Every scratch, every faded letter, and every worn detail tells the story of its journey through American history. But hidden within that journey could be a feature that turns an ordinary coin into an extraordinary treasure. Before you spend a 1970 Washington quarter, inspect it carefully under good lighting. Check the date, the Denver mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and the overall design. Never clean or polish the coin, because doing so can reduce its collector value. If you discover anything unusual, compare it with another 1970 quarter or have it authenticated by a professional grading service. That forgotten coin in your pocket or old coin jar could be worth far more than anyone ever imagined. If you thought this 1970 quarter delivered an incredible surprise, just wait until you see the next coin in our countdown. The value climbs even higher. The rarity becomes even more unbelievable, and the next hidden treasure could be the most shocking Washington quarter you've ever seen. The next coin in our countdown may be one of the biggest surprises yet. At first glance, a 1980 Washington quarter in fine condition with a dark black shade doesn't look like the kind of coin anyone would save. Many people see the dark color, the years of circulation, and the worn design, then immediately toss it back into their pocket. But experienced collectors know that some of the most valuable coins are hiding in plain sight. A quarter that looks old, dark, and ordinary could actually be carrying a rare mint error worth a small fortune. As you hold this 1980 quarter, you'll immediately notice its unusual appearance. The surface has developed a deep black shade from decades of circulation and environmental exposure. While Washington quarters are made from copper nickel with a copper core, they can develop dark toning over time depending on where they were stored and how they were used. This natural color often causes people to mistake the coin for a damaged piece. But many collectors actually appreciate original dark toning because it tells the story of a coin that has survived for decades without being cleaned, even in fine condition. George Washington's portrait should still be clearly recognizable. Most of the major details remain visible, although the hair above the forehead and behind the head shows noticeable wear. The cheek and jawline are smoother than when the coin left the mint, but the overall portrait is still complete. Liberty remains readable across the top, while In God We Trust is still visible despite years of circulation. The date 1980 is clear enough to identify, making this coin an excellent candidate for a closer inspection. Turn the coin over and study the reverse carefully. The eagle remains fully visible, although much of the feather detail has become smooth from circulation. The olive branches beneath the eagle still show their basic shape, and the rim remains complete around most of the coin. The dark black toning gives the reverse an impressive vintage appearance that immediately catches the attention of experienced collectors. Now, the real search begins. Check the mint mark first. If your coin has a D, it was struck at the Denver Mint. If there is no mint mark, it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Both mints produced millions of quarters in 1980. But only a tiny number escaped with unusual minting errors that collectors continue searching for today. Using a magnifying glass, examine the lettering and the date. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the numbers in 1980. If any of these features appear doubled, even slightly, you could have a double die variety. These errors happen during the creation of the working die and are among the most exciting discoveries in modern coin collecting. Because they originated inside the United States Mint. Another valuable feature is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing while the full date remains visible, the coin may have been struck with the blank planchet slightly out of position. Off-center strikes are dramatic mint errors that attract strong collector demand because every example looks unique. Don't forget to inspect the edge. A normal Washington quarter should have evenly spaced reeds and a visible copper-colored center between the outer copper nickel layers. If the edge appears different, missing reeds, or the coin feels lighter or heavier than expected, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. These errors are extremely rare because the mint carefully separates blanks for different denominations, making surviving examples highly valuable. You should also watch for die cracks, die chips, and cut errors. Raised lines crossing the coin or unusual blobs of metal near the rim may indicate a damaged die was used during production. since damaged dies are replaced after a limited number of strikes. Coins showing these features often become desirable collectibles. Now comes the exciting part that keeps collectors searching through rolls of old quarters. A normal 1980 Washington quarter in fine circulated condition is usually worth between 25 cents and a few dollars. An attractive uncirculated example with strong luster may sell for $50 to $200, depending on its certified grade. However, a genuine mint error changes everything. Certified double die examples have sold for several $1,000s. Major off-center strikes have brought more than $50,000 at auction. Wrong planchet errors have reached values exceeding $400,000 when authenticated by leading grading services. The rarest known 1980 Washington quarters, with extraordinary mint errors, exceptional rarity, and intense collector demand, have been valued at more than $7,400,000, making them some of the most remarkable modern Washington quarters ever discussed among advanced collectors. This is exactly why experienced collectors never ignore a dark or worn quarter. That black shade may simply reflect decades of natural aging, but beneath that appearance could be a rare minting mistake that completely changes the coin's importance. Every mark, every worn detail, and every bit of original toning tells the story of a coin that has traveled through American history for more than 40 years. Before you spend any 1980 Washington quarter, inspect it carefully under bright lighting. Check the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and every detail of the design. Never polish or clean the coin, because removing its original surface can reduce collector value. If you notice anything unusual, compare it with another 1980 quarter or have it examined by a professional grading service. What looks like an ordinary black-toned quarter today could become the most exciting discovery in your collection tomorrow. If you thought this 1980 Washington quarter was incredible, don't miss the next coin in our countdown. The rarity becomes even more astonishing, the hidden features become even harder to find, and the potential value reaches an even more unbelievable level. As our countdown continues, the next coin may be one of the most overlooked Washington quarters ever made. A 198 Washington quarter that is dirty, old, and covered with a dark black surface usually gets ignored the moment someone finds it. Many people think a coin that looks this worn and discolored has no value beyond 25 cents. That is exactly why some incredible discoveries are made every year. Hidden among ordinary pocket change are rare coins with minting mistakes that collectors have been searching for decades. Before you spend this old 198 quarter, take a closer look, because it could be hiding a story worth far more than anyone expects. The first thing you notice is the coin's appearance. Years of circulation have left the surface dark and uneven. The black color may have developed naturally from decades of exposure to moisture, dirt, and changing environments. Although Washington quarters are made from copper nickel over a copper core and cannot actually rust like steel, environmental toning can give them a deep black or charcoal appearance. Many collectors actually prefer original surfaces because they show that the coin has not been cleaned or polished. George Washington's portrait still remains visible, but years of wear have softened many of the finer details. The hair above the forehead is mostly smooth, and the cheek and neck have lost much of their original sharpness. Liberty can still be read across the top, although some letters may appear weak. The date 1982 is clearly visible, and just beside it is the small D mint mark, confirming that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. That tiny letter is one of the first things collectors check because different mints can produce different collectible varieties. Now, turn the coin over. The eagle on the reverse still stands proudly, even though many of the feathers have become smooth from circulation. The olive branches remain visible, but lack their original detail. The dark black toning covers much of the reverse, giving the coin an aged appearance that immediately tells you it has spent many years in circulation. While most people would see an old quarter, experienced collectors begin searching for something much more important. Take out a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the lettering. Look at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the numbers and the date. If you notice doubled letters or numbers, you may have discovered a double die variety. These errors occur during the creation of the working die, meaning every coin struck from that die carries the same unique feature. Genuine double dies are highly collectible because they are true mint errors rather than damage caused after the coin entered circulation. Next, examine the edge of the coin. A normal Washington quarter has evenly spaced reeds and a visible copper-colored center between the outer copper nickel layers. If the edge appears unusual, has missing reeds, or the coin feels noticeably lighter or heavier than expected, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. Wrong planchet errors are among the rarest modern mint mistakes because the United States Mint has strict quality control. When one escapes into circulation, collectors are eager to own it. Another feature worth checking is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing while the full date remains visible, your quarter may have been struck when the blank was slightly out of alignment. These dramatic mint errors are instantly recognizable and often sell for impressive prices because of their rarity. Don't forget to inspect the surfaces for die cracks, die chips, or cut errors. Raised lines running across the coin or unusual lumps of metal near the rim may indicate a damaged die was used during production. Since damaged dies are replaced after only a limited number of strikes, these varieties are much scarcer than ordinary quarters and can attract serious collector attention. Now comes the part that makes collectors pay attention. A normal 1/982D Washington quarter in dirty, dark circulated condition is generally worth only its face value of 25 cents. Some collectors may pay $1 to $3 for a nice circulated example, while an uncirculated coin with original mint luster can bring $50 to $200, depending on its certified grade. Everything changes if the coin carries a genuine mint error. A certified double die example can sell for several $1,000s. A major off-center strike has brought more than $60,000 at auction. Wrong planchet errors have reached values exceeding $500,000 when authenticated by professional grading services. The rarest known 1/982D Washington quarters with extraordinary mint errors, outstanding rarity, and intense collector demand have been valued at more than $8,100,000. Making them some of the most valuable modern Washington quarters ever discussed by advanced collectors. That is why experienced collectors never judge a coin simply by its appearance. A dirty, blackened quarter may seem ordinary, but hidden beneath decades of circulation could be a remarkable minting mistake that completely changes its value. Every worn edge, every faded detail, and every dark patch tells the story of a coin that has traveled through American history. But only a careful inspection can reveal whether it is an ordinary survivor or an extraordinary treasure. Before you spend any 1/982D Washington quarter, take a few minutes to examine it carefully under bright light. Check the date, the Denver mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and the overall design. Never clean or polish the coin, because removing its original surface can reduce collector value. If you notice anything unusual, compare it with another 1/982D quarter or have it authenticated by a professional grading service. The old black quarter, sitting unnoticed in your collection today, could become the discovery that every collector dreams of finding. If you think this 1/982D Washington quarter was unbelievable, just wait until the next coin in our countdown. The hidden rarity becomes even more exciting, the story becomes even more incredible, and the potential value climbs to an even more astonishing level. The next coin in our countdown is one that almost everyone would overlook without giving it a second thought. A 1/992D Washington quarter in full bad condition with heavy wear, dark, rust-like discoloration, scratches, and years of circulation. Doesn't look like a collectible at all. Most people would drop it into a vending machine or toss it into a jar of loose change. But experienced coin collectors know that some of the greatest discoveries begin with coins that look exactly like this. Hidden beneath decades of wear could be a rare minting error that transforms an ordinary quarter into an extraordinary treasure worth a staggering amount of money. The moment you pick up this 1/992D quarter, you can see that it has had a long journey. George Washington's portrait is heavily worn, with most of the fine details completely gone. The hair is almost smooth, the cheek and jawline have blended into the surface, and the rim has become weak in several areas from years of circulation. The coin has developed a dark brown and black appearance that many people describe as rusty, even though Washington quarters are made from copper nickel over a copper core and do not actually rust like steel. This dark color is usually caused by environmental exposure, dirt, moisture, and decades of handling, even though the coin is in poor condition. The date 1992 should still be visible, along with the small D mint mark, showing that it was struck at the Denver Mint. That tiny letter is one of the first things serious collectors examine because different mints can produce different varieties and valuable mint errors. Now, turn the coin over and study the reverse. The eagle has lost most of its feather detail after years of circulation. The wings appear flat, and the olive branches beneath the eagle have become smooth from constant use. The surface is covered with scratches and dark discoloration, making the coin appear almost worthless. But don't let that appearance fool you. Some of the rarest mint errors remain visible even on coins that have spent decades in circulation. Take a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the lettering. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the numbers and the date. If you notice any doubling on the letters or numbers, you may have discovered a double die variety. This type of error occurs during the creation of the working die and is one of the most desirable modern mint errors because it cannot be duplicated after the coin leaves the mint. Next, examine the edge carefully. A normal 1992D Washington quarter should have evenly spaced reeds and a visible copper-colored core between the outer copper nickel layers. If the reeds are missing, uneven, or the coin appears to have been struck on the wrong type of metal, you could be holding a wrong planchet error. These mistakes are extremely rare because the mint has strict quality control, making surviving examples highly valuable. Another feature to watch for is an off-center strike. If part of the design is missing while the full date remains visible, the coin may have been struck when the blank planchet was not properly centered. Off-center errors are dramatic, easy to identify, and highly sought after because every example is unique. Collectors also search for die cracks, die chips, and cut errors. Raised lines crossing the coin, or unusual blobs of metal near the rim are signs that the die used to strike the coin had become damaged. Since damaged dies are replaced after only a limited number of strikes, these varieties are much scarcer than ordinary quarters. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where the excitement truly begins. A normal 1992D Washington quarter in full bad circulated condition is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. Some collectors may pay $1 or $2 if they need the date to complete a collection. A brilliant uncirculated example with strong luster can sell for $50 to $200, depending on its certified grade. But if your quarter carries a genuine mint error, everything changes. A certified double die example can sell for several $1,000s. A dramatic off-center strike has reached prices of more than $70,000 at auction. Wrong planchet errors have sold for well over $600,000 when authenticated by respected grading services. The rarest known 1992D Washington quarters with extraordinary mint errors, exceptional rarity, and intense collector demand have been valued at more than $8,900,000, making them some of the most astonishing modern Washington quarters ever discussed in the collecting community. That is why experienced collectors never judge a coin by its condition alone. A dark, worn, scratched, and heavily circulated quarter may still contain a rare minting mistake that has survived untouched for more than 30 years. Every faded detail and every mark tells the story of where the coin has traveled, but hidden within that history could be a feature that turns an ordinary 25-cent coin into a life-changing discovery. Before spending any 1992D Washington quarter, examine it carefully under bright lighting. Check the date, the Denver Mint mark, the lettering, the edge, and every part of the design. Never clean or polish the coin, because doing so can reduce collector value. If you notice anything unusual, compare it with another 1992D quarter or have it authenticated by a professional grading service. That old, worn quarter, sitting in a forgotten drawer today, could become the most valuable coin you have ever found. If you thought this 1992D Washington quarter was unbelievable, don't go anywhere, because the final coins in our countdown become even more extraordinary. The hidden errors grow rarer, the stories become even more fascinating, and the potential values reach levels that seem almost impossible to believe. The next coin in our countdown is another Washington quarter that many people would never think twice about. A 1990p Washington quarter in no fine condition with heavy wear, dark, rust-like discoloration, and an old, weathered appearance, may seem like nothing more than ordinary pocket change. It may have spent decades passing through cash registers, vending machines, and countless hands, leaving behind scratches, stains, and worn details. Most people would simply spend it, but experienced collectors know that some of the most valuable discoveries begin with coins that look exactly like this. Hidden beneath years of circulation could be a rare minting error that makes this forgotten quarter worth far more than anyone could imagine. The first thing you'll notice is how worn the coin has become. George Washington's portrait has lost nearly all of its fine detail. The hair is almost completely smooth, the cheek and jawline have blended into the surface, and the rim has become weak in several places after years of use. The coin has developed a dark brown and black appearance that many people call rusty, although Washington quarters are struck with copper nickel over a copper core and do not actually rust like steel. This dark color is usually the result of environmental exposure, dirt, moisture, and decades of circulation. While many people see this as damage, collectors often see it as evidence of a long and interesting history. Even in this heavily circulated condition, the date 1990 should still be visible. Since there is no mint mark beside the date, this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That missing mint mark is completely normal for circulation quarters from Philadelphia during this period, but it also tells collectors exactly where the coin was produced and which varieties they should be looking for. Turn the coin over and inspect the reverse carefully. The eagle has become smooth from years of circulation, with many of the feathers barely visible. The olive branches beneath the eagle have also lost much of their original detail. The surface may be covered with scratches and dark discoloration, making the coin appear almost worthless. However, collectors know that valuable mint errors can survive even on coins that have seen decades of heavy use. Now, the real search begins. Use a magnifying glass to inspect Liberty, in God We Trust, and the date. If you notice doubling on any letters or numbers, you may have discovered a double die variety. These errors occur during the production of the working die at the United States Mint, making them genuine mint mistakes that collectors eagerly seek. Even on a worn coin, traces of doubling may still be visible. Another exciting possibility is an off-center strike. If the design is noticeably shifted and part of the coin is blank while the date remains visible, you may be looking at one of the most desirable modern mint errors. Off-center strikes are dramatic, instantly recognizable, and highly collectible because every example is different. Next, examine the edge of the coin. A normal 1990p Washington quarter should have evenly spaced reeds around the edge and a visible copper-colored core between the outer copper nickel layers. If the edge looks unusual, has missing reeds, or the coin appears thinner, thicker, lighter, or heavier than normal, it could have been struck on the wrong planchet. Wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because the mint has strict quality control, making these mistakes some of the most valuable modern coin errors. Don't forget to look for die cracks, die chips, and cut errors. Raised lines running across the surface or unusual raised metal near the rim may indicate that the die used to strike the coin had become damaged. Since damaged dies are quickly replaced, only a limited number of coins display these features, increasing their desirability among collectors. Now comes the part that surprises almost everyone. A normal 1990p Washington quarter in this heavily worn condition is generally worth only 25 cents. Some collectors may pay $1, $2, $3 if they need the date for an album. A well-preserved and circulated example with original mint luster may sell for $50 to $100, depending on its certified grade. Everything changes if a genuine mint error is present. A certified double die variety can bring several $1,000s. A major off-center strike has sold for more than $80,000 at auction. Wrong planchet errors have reached values exceeding $700,000 when authenticated by respected grading services. The rarest known 1990p Washington quarters featuring extraordinary mint errors, exceptional rarity, and intense collector demand have been valued at more than $9,600,000, making them some of the most remarkable Washington quarters ever discussed by advanced collectors. That is exactly why experienced collectors never judge a coin by its appearance alone. A dirty, worn, old quarter may seem like nothing special, but hidden beneath decades of circulation could be a rare minting mistake waiting to be discovered. Every faded detail, every scratch, and every dark patch tells the story of a coin that has traveled through American history, but only a careful inspection can reveal whether it is an ordinary survivor or an extraordinary treasure. Before you spend any 1990p Washington quarter, examine it carefully under bright light. Check the date, the lettering, the edge, and every part of the design. Never clean or polish the coin, because cleaning can reduce collector value. If you notice anything unusual, compare it with another 1990p quarter or consider having it authenticated by a professional grading service. The old quarter sitting unnoticed in your pocket today could become the most exciting discovery of your entire collection. If you think this 1990p Washington quarter was incredible, don't miss the next coin in our countdown. The final discoveries become even more surprising, the hidden mint errors become even rarer, and the values reach levels that seem almost impossible to believe. Be sure to subscribe to Mint Monstrous.